First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Look at that, Tim. Nice looking day out there for the most part at Jacksonville Beach. Some high clouds out there. Welcome in, folks. I am back after my multi-day hiatus.
Once again, Ross doing research for us. We appreciate it. Are you going to share that research or wait for it to get published and then peer-reviewed?
Oh no, I wanted to go through all the loops and rings and stuff before it gets published.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't want to spoil it.
Hey, can I just share that this is live TV?
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to happen on live TV.
Okay.
Since you're the captain, I'm going to follow your lead. But because this is, we used to call it television. What do we call this anymore? Streaming.
Yeah.
But still, it's good to have monitors that you can see, right? And so the monitor I see is it's like a new moon without stars is how it looks.
So you can't see anything?
It's pretty dark. I mean,
Andy, come on, man.
I wasn't going to call out Andy. I was not going to call out Andy. There he goes, folks.
All right.
Andy
Anyway,
knows.
how about that weather?
Andy knows the IT.
Can you see now, Tim?
I can see fine. There's just nothing on the monitor. There we go. Thank you, Andy. Does your mother call you Andrew when you're in trouble?
Yes. And the middle name.
And what's the middle name?
Taylor.
Andrew Taylor.
Mm.
But now we're up. There he is, Ross looking rested.
So you missed out on that beach picture that we had. There we go.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. That's of course it's always nice to look at the beach, but you can't tell a lot from that sky, can you?
Not really. Yeah, it's kind of a messy sky out there.
Yeah, it's kind of
we got a lot of
messy sky. Would you call it debris? I mean, this is a dynamic system to the west.
Well, and if you pull up the graphics, Andy, I think this is a good lead into what I believe my first graphic is, an IR satellite imagery.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in here.
Wow,
you have
that's a great one.
two big systems, one pretty much swirling right around over Lake Erie, up in the New England portion of the country, the Northeast, and the Great Lakes, and then another very potent storm system firing up across eastern Oklahoma, eastern Texas, into Louisiana and Arkansas. So that Arklatex region,
that area.
they continue to get hit. Yeah.
Wow.
And we'll kind of zoom in then closer to each of these. But then you can kind of see that debris just kind of getting pulled eastward over the First Coast.
Yeah.
So some thunderstorms firing up across the Gulf earlier today. That wave has kind of now made it on shore to kind kind of the I-4 corridor down towards Daytona and Orlando, and really even closer to the eastern seaboard from there. But for us over the First Coast, really just kind of a mix of some low and high level clouds out there. Not a whole lot to ride home about here.
I mean, maybe some thunderstorms developing southern Putnam or southern St. John's, Flagler, maybe, this evening.
At best, yeah.
But wow, look out west. Hey, while you're showing the big picture, Ross, I just generally speaking, since that first, remember, historical rainfall event. Well, the historical rainfall event that they had more on the Mississippi, Ohio, Tennessee Valley area, but still feeding into the Mississippi. And that was after already a big event. But we've been through so many. But of course, now things have been feeding into the Mississippi from all directions, including, and you've been talking about the heavy rains over Oklahoma. So I've been curious as far as with all of that feeding in, especially the Red River and then eventually the Mississippi. But of course, that river can handle a lot of water. When will it start? At least to where we're comparing it to records. And I was checking out Baton Rouge yesterday. Didn't have a record, but they crested within 4 feet of the all-time record.
Oh, wow.
Which for the Mississippi, that's saying a lot. That's a lot of water.
Yeah, especially considering some of the tropical systems they've had move over that area with, very, very heavy rainfall. So,
right, or just plain massive, quick snow melts way upstream. But
that come down.
But just have carried down. So, I mean, we're talking about decades of records there, so pretty major event. For anybody who is going to go to Baton Rouge, best we can tell, because they do have some really high levees now, is some farmland is flooded, but it sounds like Baton Rouge itself is going to do okay. But that's more long term. Obviously, they have some heavy duty weather heading their way. It looks like there. Is that a tornado watch we have for lots of Texas and Louisiana?
Yep. So a big tornado watch. They have a multitude of severe thunderstorm warnings right along that line, kind of extended southward from the Arklatex, kind of down towards the western sides of the Houston metro. And then if you look up to the northwest of the screen, perhaps the area we would typically forget about, but the Denver metro seeing very heavy rain, and all of the mountains seeing a very wet, heavy snow. So today is May 6th, and they are still getting very heavy snowfall.
They may be
across
skiing
the Eastern
late
Rockies.
into the season.
Yes. Yeah, so a big late season snow event for those folks. As we said, here we'll be watching for a few isolated showers, if not maybe a rumble of thunder or two, primarily across our southern counties, so Putnam, Flagler, and perhaps St. John's. But for the time being, really not seeing a whole lot out there. Right now, Tim, it is warm. It is slowly starting to feel a little bit more humid out there as well.
I have to admit that saw the airport, even with all those clouds, I think they've at least made it to 88.
Yep, I saw that as well.
Pretty warm environment for that.
Palatka at 90.
Wow, yeah.
That's a little steamy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, those dew points are starting to come up as well. Oh, that's a great shot.
Yeah, so this is of the Matanzas River down in near Palm Coast.
All right, and that's probably about the most vertical cumulus extent we've seen, right?
Yes.
And that's farther south toward those areas we're talking about. That's
and as I said, down towards like Daytona Beach, like Titusville and the Space Coast, there are a couple thunderstorms there, but I couldn't find any great cameras to give you a nice look. So this was kind of the closest I could get that gives you a good sky view.
It's a great shot. Good work, man. You came back from research. You're just cranking.
I try.
So it looks like they're playing ball, right?
Tonight, over at ViStar.
Yep. Could be, might be for some folks, especially south of Jacksonville, as the sun sets, might look kind of threatening. But certainly if you're headed into the metro, looks like you're in good shape. And although, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, Ross, because I know how you feel about that. But I'm just thinking that if you're thinking, well, I really want to take the family to a game. I'm maybe thinking about tonight, but maybe Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. I'm not saying that there are guaranteed washouts. But if you want your best chance of getting a game in, right, tonight would be the night. Yes, tonight would be the night to do it. I think I do have that in here then the rest of the week for the Jumbo Shrimp. But this is the reason why, right, Tim? So this has been the big thing. You've probably seen, at least across some parts of the national news, but specifically locally here across the First Coast now, you get this big deepening trough across the central part of the country. And this cutoff low kind of gets separated away from the jet stream. You can see a that's the term cutoff. Yeah, very strong jet to the south of it, and then the northern, the polar jet stream well off to the north across Canada here by the end of the week and into the weekend. So it really just kind of meanders around this upper level low across, the northern Gulf. And we do expect a surface low to kind of develop along this, or just off to, I should say, to the southeast.
And this is just going to continue to pump in a lot of low-level moisture.
Lots of moisture.
We're going to
You know-
have dew points in the 70s, perhaps, too.
Yeah, because
and a lot
it's
of rain.
As you know, the Gulf and even our near western Atlantic waters, they'll get even warmer during the summer. But it's one thing for an upper level system to tap into the Gulf, during the winter. But with water temperatures there now in the 70s and 80s, like you said, that's going to pump up some pretty juicy weather. Upper levels will get ripe for a while. Then we get that surface front. All kind of reasons for a lot of rain to form.
Yeah, so we're going to break it down in full detail here in just a second. But let's just start you off with tomorrow, kind of before that main, upper level low swings on in. We're thinking, some late afternoon thunderstorm chances for Jacksonville. Now, we will be watching perhaps for a morning wave of rain to come in. Primarily across southeast Georgia tomorrow morning.
I'll tell you what,
Tim, I mean, it's iffy, but there's a good chance.
If I was a traveler heading west, I would be watching you tonight at 11 because I suspect by 11 you'll have a pretty good grip of that wave that's going to be heading in by then, probably into the Florida Panhandle and Alabama.
Yeah.
And I suspect it's going to look pretty vigorous. And as we both know, the big question is just how quickly or not will that weaken as it gets into our area. It should. Indications are that it should. But that's why you have the morning wave there, right, for Georgia?
Well, and this is the same system that's bringing the severe weather to Texas and Louisiana, Arkansas. It moves across the deep south overnight tonight. And most models are showing, as it shows here, by, mid-morning tomorrow, pretty much fizzling out before it hits our inland southeast Georgia counties. But yeah, we'll kind of have to see how things develop here throughout the rest of this evening. Perhaps it has a little bit more steam, especially if it slows down, and then it doesn't really reach southeast Georgia until perhaps the afternoon. You get a little bit of some extra heating and stability that might give way to some extra showers or thunderstorms out there by the early afternoon. But
you can see even the models they're having a hard time making it really vigorous during the afternoon. Well, that's pretty vigorous.
But that's really, closer to sunset.
Yeah, but I think that is also why we're talking about, although there's going to be an increase, maybe 60% of us get it tomorrow versus we should even be closer on Friday. See if this analogy makes sense at all to you, Ross. When there's a system like this, a cutoff, it's slowly heading our way. Where it's producing a lot of rain. I almost picture it like you're sitting on the side of a lake, and today is almost like there's a really big boat on the other side of the lake, and it's going back and forth on the other side, and some of the wake is making it to you, but not much.
Yeah.
And then each hour on the lake, it's going back and forth, but a little bit closer. And so that wake getting to you is getting bigger and bigger, and then finally, you're getting breaking wakes. I kind of, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good analogy. I'm impressed.
You know me. I like anything that brings in waves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thursday. Okay,
yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. Here's Thursday. Perhaps a slightly more widespread. I don't necessarily want to say widespread, but the key here is that our rain chances are going to increase probably a little bit each day here through the end of the week.
Yeah, and if folks don't hear it, what Ross is holding off on is Wednesday and Thursday. Yes, needed rain, and certainly the highest chances we've had since Sunday. But compared to what's coming, even this is just a precursor, right? It looks like.
Yes. Thursday, it's going to be warm, humid. The rain chances are going to come on in. I think for the most part, if we're trying to lock down an area, Tim, I would say, pretty much from I-75 eastward, it does look like perhaps, especially by the late afternoon, early evening, that peak instability and stuff could see a few more scattered rumbles of thunder.
Get some sea breeze convergences.
Yeah. But that's going to be a little bit more convective, I would say, by especially Friday and then through the whole weekend.
Great graphic, by the way, Ross. I
you.
like this.
Yeah, and this is really, I think, the best way to perhaps tell the story, because sometimes we throw up the percentages, and you might be thinking in your head, okay, what is the difference between 60% and 70%, or 30 and 40? Perhaps this is a different way to think about it.
Yep.
So Friday, numerous, if not widespread rain chances. Saturday and Sunday, widespread rain and thunderstorm chances, which could certainly lead to a washout. So this is essentially telling you, if you have any outdoor plans Saturday or Sunday, be prepared to bring them inside
Have
or for
options.
them to
Have
for them to
options for
potentially
Mom.
be canceled. Very true. Yeah, Mother's Day's on Sunday.
Yeah. I'm thinking if you're taking her to a brunch, you better get there early and get that parking spot close to where there's a roof.
Yeah, you don't want to be waiting in line outside. Your mom's going to be a little peeved, a little upset there.
Because she wants her hair or hat to look perfect.
Yeah. But Tim, you had mentioned the jumbo shrimp
Yes.
earlier. Today's probably the best day because by the end of the week, Friday, Saturday, those games might get rained out.
Yeah, they look pretty iffy. Yep.
And-
I would say, especially on Friday and Saturday.
Well, not to hit on the grounds crews over at ViStar either.
No. But if they have a chance to play on Friday and Saturday, it would be that maybe a storm hits them mid-afternoon. It stabilizes. The ground crew can do something with all that water. But that's all it would be. It would simply because the atmosphere may briefly destabilize, and it looks like, although during all of those days, during the warmest part of the day is when we'll have our highest chance of thunderstorms. But still, it looks like there's enough reasons for rain to where there could be waves of rain and thunderstorms even late at night or early in the morning, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and I think maybe the saving grace for the jumbo shrimp this week is tomorrow. You notice the first pitch is at 12:05.
Yeah, that could be perfect timing, right?
Yeah, so you might kind of be in the middle between the morning wave that might come in, and then anything that comes in post, let's say 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, tonight and likely Wednesday or tomorrow at noon, best days for the jumbo shrimp. Every other one, first pitch either at 7:05 or 6:35. That's probably in that best time slot, I guess, for those rain and thunderstorm chances here. So not a great one to have outdoor plans, go to any outdoor sporting events to the end of the week here, Tim.
No, and then here comes the traditional Donna's 5K. It's down there at the Friday Music out in Riverside. They will have that event however the weather is. Hopefully we won't have lightning, and maybe we'll get a bit of a break, but that has become quite the nice Mother's Day tradition. So that'll be a go, whatever.
And can people still sign up for this?
Yeah,
Tim?
people can still sign up, and obviously you're helping the Donna Foundation, which helps folks dealing with breast cancer, and then then researchers who are trying to get this darn thing finished. But we will be out there. We will be out there running amidst the puddles. Maybe I'll just be jumping in the puddles.
Now, is this you might be. Is this a big thing for like sons and daughters to do with their moms?
Yes, I think.
Is that are a lot of folks running with their moms out there?
There will be a lot of folks, and for people who like to run, and maybe they're trying to think, what can I do for my mom besides just doing something? Yeah, you'll see a lot of son, daughter, son, mother, or daughter, mother, or everybody.
Children with their mother.
Yeah, you will see families out there. So yeah, it's fun. Now these days, because we've reached the point to where I don't know, we're into our second generation of where women have run cross country and gotten scholarships. So you'll see some mothers out there that'll be cranking. I mean, there'll be mothers out there that I won't see until the finish line, because they'll just go, poo. What do you mean? Yeah. Weren't you? There wasn't a second of you that you were thinking, "Oh, Tim, you're too fast for that to happen."
No.
You just went right to yeah.
I know how close you are to retirement. I mean,
you're true that.
I'm expecting them to fly on by.
True
here.
that. Yes, there will be some healthy mothers that are, I think, just great. A great sign of all kind of ways to be healthy. Okay, here
their
comes
speed
the moisture.
their speed is going to be a little bit faster than perhaps this system coming in this weekend.
Yes, good point.
This is really just kind of another way to look at it. So at the start of the stream, we showed the cutoff low, kind of the waves of energy, the moisture coming in. This is actually showing that level of moisture and potential rainfall in the air. So you can see it not only continues through the weekend, but even into early next week, Tim, perhaps all the way through Monday, and maybe even into
just
Tuesday.
For a second, because I love this graphic that you brought up. So for folks, if this graphic is new, this is not necessarily saying what's going to rain. It almost means more than that, because this graphic talks about how much moisture there is in the air up through about 30,000 feet. And so to see that stream coming up from the East Gulf and maybe even the Northwest Caribbean, that is some deep level moisture.
Yeah, let me see if I can take it back. 1 second here. So yeah, let's look. You can see Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there are pockets of some of those darker greens, but it really increases substantially the back half of Sunday and then into Monday as that surface low begins to move on shore. and begins to, creep its way off into the northeast at least a little
I'm
bit.
trying to, do we call it because they folks in the Pacific, they have their Pineapple Express. Do we call this the Gulf Gully Washer? Do we call it the Caribbean Connection?
Yeah, because they often call it like an atmospheric river out there.
Atmospheric river?
Yeah, the Gulf. Andy, do you have a term that would fit here?
It's coming from Jamaica, the reggae rainmaker.
Well, we have time to figure out what we want to call it exactly.
Just different forms of wet, right?
Yes.
But hey, let's face it. I mean, this is what the doctor ordered, because if this will probably be one of the last chances. Now, I'm not trying to give a long-range outlook, but this will. Just climatologically, you would think this would probably be one of our last chances in which something in the jet stream can provide us with widespread rain, that we're getting closer and closer to the season to where, unless it's tropical, then we're just getting thunderstorms here or there, right?
Yeah.
So as dry as we've been, especially some of us, and if you're to try to order something up, this is basically what you'd be ordering, a slow-moving cutoff system coming at us, from the west.
Even driving up from Miami yesterday, there were multiple times along 95 where it said, caution wildfire 3 miles ahead.
Yeah, they probably needed even more
I saw a
than we
couple
do.
different signs like that, and I don't have it in here, but I know the drought monitor. You got like the severe to extreme drought for Putnam, Flagler, St. Johns counties. Some serious drought conditions rapidly increasing.
Yep.
We would often call it like a flash drought in Oklahoma, and same thing in Texas too. And you not only have dry air, we've had some dry or low dew points here over the last several weeks, some hot temperatures, and just a major lack of rain. Before you know it, things dry out really, really fast.
Yep.
So this is what we need. We need it though in like steady increments. Unfortunately, there's going to be the potential for some very, very heavy rainfall. Some folks could pick up well over an inch. I think conservatively 2 to 4, if not closer to 5 inches by the time next Monday and Tuesday rolls around in some of those heavier pockets.
I think, my confidence is building to where I'm going to say accumulations by Monday, area wide, everybody gets 2 to 3 inches, and like you said, maybe 5, and maybe some spots even 7, depending on just how this comes on through.
Yeah, and this is
there
from
you
the
go.
Weather Prediction Center, so they're showing 4 to perhaps 5, maybe even 6 inches, depending on how you read the legend up there. So you had mentioned off camera the chance for maybe some minor street flooding with some of those heavier downpours. So we don't expect any of the rivers or streams to flood.
Yeah, at least not short term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But street flooding certainly could be a concern in some of those heavier downpours and stronger thunderstorms. I think there will be the chance, at least for some marginally severe storms, perhaps more so over the weekend. But we're still, I think, a few days out from that to really fine-tune the potential severe weather risk. So just know, there's going to be not only rain, but there will be some storms. Just how strong they're going to be, only time will tell here. We'll have more on that probably on the next day or so too, right, Tim?
And maybe a final note, something we talked about. But for those of you that have some property, this typically is the time of the year where the ditches are driest. And so if there's ever a time that you want to get in and get that stuff cut, of course, it's easier when there's not water on it or it's not muddy. And but we're about ready to hit a situation to where those places are going to at the least get muddy, if not saturated. So might want to get her.
I'll dig out that ditch that always, floods in front of the yard or something like that, or on the side of the house.
Very good point.
I'll get the shovel out and get it dug out there for you.
Like
so, there is the rest of the 7-day though. You've had it on the screen for at least a couple minutes. Rainy.
It's a great looking screen, by the way. I can see it. It's awesome.
Hopefully tomorrow, Andy will have that turned on for Tim for the start of this. Take care.